Well, happy Hanukkah, everybody. Hag Hanukkah Sameach. Hope you're having a great first day of Hanukkah already. Hope you had a great first candle lighting, I should say Hanukkah lighting last night. It's already been a great holiday for us so far. We just have heard about people who have had miracles in their life, good news, and that's good. That's a Baruch Hashem for all of us, right? May this be a season of miracles for all of you. Good morning. So glad you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about the Aliyah in which Joseph is falsely accused. And so, very interesting. Again, we look at correlations between Joseph, who is the suffering Messiah, and of course, Yeshua, who is the fulfillment, if you will, of that position. And yesterday we talked about the Messiah in the world, how Joseph, being a symbolic of that suffering Messiah, was cast into the world. The world, of course, being Egypt. He came into this world. He, we saw he was rejected by his brothers. He came into this world. He's essentially rejected by the Gentiles as well, falsely accused and sent into a prison for a rather long time. And the way I look at that as far as a correlation, it's like it's a couple of different things. Messiah being cast into the tomb, that's like a dungeon, yes. But really, Messiah just kind of being cast into a place in which he's considered a criminal. Joseph being in prison is considered to be a criminal, considered to be worthy of having been in prison, and at this point accused of attempted rape or sexual assault against his master's wife, of course, which is all a lie. And the same thing with respect to Yeshua. He was, of course, falsely accused. But something I find curious, though, is that you study Christian literature or what have you, and about the Messiah and all the things that he was falsely accused of, pretty much Christians say, yeah, that's true. He did. He broke the Sabbath. He broke those laws. He didn't mind. He made all foods clean and so forth. I marvel at that because I'm thinking myself, that's the very thing that they accused the Messiah, which they said were false accusations. But now through the Christian world, Pauline doctrine, where that's derived from ultimately, that he in fact, did do those things. So he did away with circumcision, did away with the Sabbath, did away with, all the ceremonial so-called laws. Well, if that's true, then what they arrested him for and big air quotes here, tried him for, well, they were right. Right? Is it just me? Is it just me, or is that not a true statement? But in any case, we're looking today at this story of Joseph being being falsely accused by his master's wife. And we'll learn some lessons for ourselves. Of course, we'll look at some correlations between Messiah and this time period in the tomb, and yes, Randy, like in 3 days in hell and so forth, and then just being right now. I mean, as far as in Jewish minds, Yeshua is seen to be like a criminal, like he did something wrong. Of course, he didn't, but that's. Again, I emphasize here, that's what the perception is, that he's a criminal because he is in, proverbial prison. But even those who allegedly follow him, although most of the people who believe in the Messiah don't actually follow the Messiah, but that goes back to the Jesus versus Yeshua video I did. They think they're following him, but they're not really following him. They're following a caricature of him, which is not really him. But in any case, but because of his alleged followers, all they do is affirm that he is in fact a criminal. Criminal how? Criminal by breaking God's law. So as a Jew, you have to understand, as a Jewish person, biblically, this is so important for you to get this, especially for those of you who are new. You're trying to figure this whole thing out. Like, I kind of feel like Torah's observance is a true thing, but I'm not really sure. I don't really know because 1,000 pastors have told me otherwise. Look, you have to understand from a Jewish point of view, aka a biblical point of view, there can never be a Messiah ever who eliminates change, alters, ceases to be needful or effective, or blah, 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 whatever. There's not one instance in which, biblically speaking, I'm talking about the Bible here, otherwise known as Judaism, that a Messiah can come and do and change, abrogate, modify, negate, whatever you want to, whatever word salad you want to use, any of the laws of Moses at all, ever. Okay. Well, the Christian, the person who, allegedly follows the Messiah, supposed to be the Messiah of Israel, comes along and says just that. According to Paul, JC did all of that. He absolutely changed the laws or abrogated them, made them of no effect, fulfilled them, or whatever. However whatever word salad you want to use, the end result effect was, in some way, shape, or form, he nullified either all or most of the laws of Moses. And you have to understand, in the eyes of a Jew, biblically, there's no way around it. He cannot be the Messiah. So what I'm trying to say is that Jewish people look at the Yeshua and they think, yeah, he's a criminal. Yeah, he's in prison. Yeah, he deserves to be there. And according to his followers, we're right. According to his followers, like, yeah, he nullified the food laws. Yeah, he got rid of Sabbath. Yeah, we no longer have to do those festivals. Yeah, we don't have to do any of that so-called ceremonial stuff. And we as Jews go, okay, well, then he's a liar. Okay, well, then he's a fake Messiah. Okay, well, then we were right. And the Christians are puzzled. Like, what? Well, yeah, I mean, Deuteronomy 13, Deuteronomy 12. I mean, come on. So you see what I'm saying? It's a big mess. By the way, just as a side note here, two side notes. First side note, because I don't want to sound like a fruitcake or a nutcase or a whatever, inconsistent I don't know what other adjectives to use, but I have been mentioning my Noahide paper for some time now. And probably y'all are sick of hearing me saying it's almost ready. Well, so I just want to make this announcement to all of you because I don't want to sound like I'm lost in the proverbial sauce here. But my Noahide paper is in fact finished. It has been edited and so forth, and thank God for that. But and I had every intention of publishing it this week, but here is the problem. It's really a book. It's really, so as a result of that, it's really too long, far too long to publish really on the blog site, because it's way more than an article. It's a short book. So what I'm looking to do now, Bezrat Hashem, is to publish it as an ebook. And as a result, that's requires, some, more work. Formatting, all that kind of stuff, which I've this is my first experience at this. So I'm having to kind of learn how to actually do that. So it's one thing to write content. It's something altogether different to, put it in a format that's relevant to like a short book. But it is in fact a short book. So just know that that's what I'm waiting on, and I don't want to be premature and what I'm doing here, because I think this is important. And the thing about the Noahide deal is that it again, like my whole goal in life is to help people follow the real Messiah in the real true way. That's why I exist. In fact, if you know me, I said this to somebody one time. I said, if you've met me, if you know me, it's because God wants you to know him and his Torah and the Messiah, of course, which is the Torah. But anyway, right? Hashem wants you to know him, the Mashiach, and the Torah. If you know me, if I have any relevance in your life, that's the reason. Otherwise, there's no other reason to know me. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? But it's true. That's how I feel, right? So my whole relevance to you is leading you to Hashem and to the Mashiach and to into the Holy Torah, Baruch Hashem. So what was the other thing? I said there was two things, and now I forgot what the other thing was. What was I talking about? Somebody remind me in the chat. I totally forgot because I got lost on the Noahide thing. But in any case, it's going to be an ebook, and there you go. All right, we'll move on. If I think about what the other thing was, which I've totally forgot, all of a sudden we'll come back to that. But let's look at this insight here with respect to Joseph. Okay, so Joseph has been falsely accused by his brothers. You're not going to be the boss of me. In fact, he will be. And now he's been sent down to Egypt, and he was made a slave in Potiphar's house, and things are going well. Yes, he's a slave, but he's the chief slave, and pretty much, he's doing good. I mean, really, for all intents and purposes, life is pretty good here. And then one problem is that Potiphar's wife wants to have carnal relations with him, and he knows that is not at all okay. And so he's not going to do that. And as a result of him being pious, as a result of him resisting the temptation, resisting the sin, which I'm sure, listen, I can imagine this is a difficult temptation to, I can imagine anyway, a difficult temptation to resist on a whole lot of levels, not just the carnal level, but listen, on the emotional level, on the, who knows what she promised him. We have in the scriptures things that she said, but listen, this is a powerful woman. Maybe he's thinking that she may be his advantage in Egypt. Who knows, right? But the point, in fact, is that there's this a powerful temptation, and so on and so forth. Now, any of you ever felt this way, where something negative happens in your life, but you take it as a gam zu l'tova, this too is for the best. You roll with the proverbial punches, and then you're like, okay, so things seem to be working out okay. And then things just seemingly go from bad to worse. Anybody ever had that experience in life? And you're wondering to yourself, what gives? I mean, I thought I was doing good, just, kind of accepting this and moving on and like, okay, this is fine. And it just goes from bad to worse, seemingly. Or maybe it does actually go from bad to worse. Or have you ever had this experience where you felt like you didn't feel like, you knew you were doing the right thing by resisting something or saying no to something that you knew was wrong. You're like, you know what? This is wrong. And I'm going to make the right choice here and say, no, I'm going to walk away from this or run away from it, because this is obviously not okay. And I'm just going to make the right choice. And it's the right choice because you know right from wrong. You know what the Torah says, and you make the right choice, and so on and so forth. You make your teshuvah. Has anybody ever done that and it seemed that all hell broke loose. Like you making the right choice led to basically this, maybe false accusations, maybe it wasn't false accusations exactly, but it was some other type of hell. And you had to go through it for a minute. And you're thinking to yourself, wait, I thought I made the right choice. I thought if I didn't make the right choice, that all hell would break loose and so on and so forth. But now that I've made the right choice, all hell is broken loose on me. Has anybody ever been there? Anybody ever had that happen to you? And you're sitting in this proverbial, wasteland, wondering what just happened. Some of you have had, some of you have not had, and that, by the way, is great. Good for you. I've had that happen to me. It's bizarre. But what we learn eventually, of course, is that those things end up working out for absolutely our best, and it's crazy. But we see that with the life of Joseph as well. That naturally, we all know the end of the story, or I shouldn't say we all know. Please forgive me for saying that. I should never presume that everybody knows the story. Okay, my apologies. However, let me just say, spoiler alert, had this not happened to Joseph just like this, he would never sit on the throne of Egypt. In other words, if he just been in Potiphar's house and life went well and was going great, and he was pretty much, yeah, he's a slave, but come on, he's making, he's doing good. Then he never would have become king of Egypt, essentially. He never would have been able to save his brothers. He never would have been able to bring the Egyptians to the light of Torah through circumcision and conversion. And he never would have been taken back to the Holy Land and buried in Shechem. He never would have been considered in Judaism the prototype, the type and shadow of the suffering Messiah. You see, if this hadn't happened to his life, none of that would have happened. So just take comfort, because listen, I can tell you right now from personal experience, when you do the right thing and you make the right choice and you're honest and so on and so forth, and you turn away from things that are wrong because they're wrong, and you're like, nope, I'm given a choice. I've got door number 1 and door number 2. Door number 2 is holy hell. In other words, accepting the just going down the path of lawlessness. Door number 1 is do the right thing. I'm going to go through door number 1, and you open door number 1, and the Pandora's box of Hades opens up in your face. Just know that everything's going to be okay. It's not fun. No, it's not. And sometimes you wonder, like, This is why, ladies and gentlemen, you and I cannot be guided by feelings. We cannot be guided by subjective emotions. We can't be guided by experiences. We can't lick our finger and put it in the air and see which way the wind is blowing. You and I have to be guided by truth and truth alone. We can't be guided by nostalgia. It's like, a lot of people take issue with my stance against Paul, and I am 100% against him. He is a false teacher. He is a heretic. He was not a true apostle. He did not teach the true gospel. And I have taken flack from people who are obsessed with him, who seemingly have made him into an idol, who seemingly think that he is in fact God. I can believe in Hashem. I can believe in the Bible. I can believe in the Gospels. I can believe in Yeshua. I can believe in the 12 true apostles. But if I reject Paul, I'm going to hell in a handbasket. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a cult. That's a nut. That's nuts. But what that really means, and you have to understand me, that means that everything that you ultimately believe, if you feel that way, it means that everything with respect to salvation for you centers on Paul. Okay? But here's the deal. Somebody asked me this last Shabbat, how did you come to this conclusion? And it was interesting because it was a journey, to be sure. And I won't take the time to go through the journey. But the point, in fact, here is that it all comes down to truth. Because I'm not somebody in my personality, my wife can probably attest to this, that I'm just not swept away by emotion and nostalgia and phony baloney, plastic banana, good time rock and roll. To me, it all comes down to truth. If it's true, it's true. If it's not, it's not. That's it. That's it, man. And truth has to be substantiated. Truth is not based on some article I read on the internet, but it's actually, scholarly stuff. And so that my point is, that's where your life has to be. And sometimes truth will not take you necessarily to a happy place at first. And this is the point of the story today. The point of this message today is that sometimes when you do the right thing, not everybody's going to like you, and you have to be okay with that. You have to buck up, put your big boy pants on, put your big girl skirt on. If you choose Torah, your friends and family may not like you. You may be called a heretic. If you reject Paul, you may be accused of being in a cult. I've been accused of being a cult leader, which is ridiculous and stupid and absurd. I'm the furthest thing from. Cult leaders don't tell you to go educate yourself. Cult leaders don't tell you to go look it up for yourself. Cult leaders don't encourage you to build a library. Okay? Cult leaders don't give away all their stuff for free. But the point in fact is that you may do the right thing and end up in hell. And you have to understand that's just somehow how Hashem works. Joseph made. Now here's something. Anybody ever heard the old thing that you shouldn't be careful about volunteering? Well, anyway, Joseph makes kind of a mistake here that you and I ought to be careful about not making. Okay. This is what Joseph says. So everything's going good in his master's house, and life is good. Now, one of the things that one of the mistakes that Joseph made that the sages talk about Joseph is that he was a good-looking guy, and he spent a little bit too much time primping himself. He let his hair grow long. He used a curling iron, and he always wore the nicest clothes and used the nicest cologne. And that was one of his mistakes. But putting that aside, that's kind of a small thing. Or maybe it's small, maybe it's not. But we should be careful that we don't, whether you're male or female, that we don't intentionally dress provocative. We got to ask ourselves, who are you dressing for? But anyway, I put that aside because, we believe in dressing modestly. By the way, a lot of women ask on this program, that have asked at various times, and I understand why, because there's so many cultish beliefs out there in Christendom. Okay. Is it okay for a woman to wear makeup? Yes. Is it okay for a woman to wear jewelry? Yes. For the love of God, yes. Please stop with all the cultish stuff out there. Now, should she, do all things in moderation? Yeah, of course, right? And I'm not here to tell you what that looks like, but you probably know yourself, right? But the point in fact is, can a woman wear makeup? Yes. Can she wear jewelry? Yes. Can she wear earrings? Yes. Okay. Okay. There's that. But Joseph says, in a way, Joseph himself sought out this trial, is what it's saying here. This is in Mayam Loez. He said, my grandfather Abraham and my father Isaac both withstood a terrible test and did not complain about God's decree. Why should I be better off than they? God replied to him, if that is what you want, I will give you an even harsher test than theirs. The most difficult thing for a young man is to control his sexual desires. So Joseph's sexual frustration caused him even more anguish than Isaac's experience when he was bound on the altar. So here we have a situation in which Joseph is actually asking for a test. Joseph is asking for a test. And now there's positives and negatives to this, but generally speaking, I would venture to say that it's probably good that we don't ask for tests. Test me, Lord, and see. That's probably not a good idea. Probably better to let the game come to you than you raising your hand and say, yes, test me, O Lord. Yeah, no. This also brings up another point. One of the reasons why we have to be careful about judging other people about this, that, or the other is because we don't want that test coming to us. So we look at somebody who has a failure in their life and we start running our mouth and talking about how terrible that was. Boy, I tell you, boy, if that was me, boy, I tell you, boy, I wouldn't do, boy, oh boy, I would have made a different decision. Would you? Don't run your mouth because you don't know. Because here's what happens. You look at somebody who had a failure and you're like, man, I can't believe that happened to them. Boy, they're so stupid. Man, I tell you what, if that happened to me, I'd have made this choice or that choice would have been totally different than that one. Blah, blah. And then the Satan goes, oh, really? Well, let me just test you in that and see. And of course, you'll fail 100%. So this is why we don't run our mouth and we don't ask for tests. We don't judge people who've taken the test. And, we just kind of go, okay, because we don't know. So it says here, in the past, God would choose a member of the of my family. This is what Joseph is saying here. Now, what I'm about to read is instructive with respect to the fact that he called upon himself a test. But I also want you to hear what Ma'am Loez is saying here, because it's also instructive with respect to the sacrifice of Messiah Yeshua. Okay, listen. In the past, God would choose a member of my family as a human sacrifice. Did you hear that, Charlie? Did y'all hear that? This is Ma'am Loez. In the past, God would choose a member of my family as a human sacrifice. Well, I thought God doesn't believe in human sacrifices. Well, he doesn't, except when he does, except when it matters in this kind of situation, right? So it says he commanded Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. There is a good chance that God will also choose me for the same purpose. Now, this is important, particularly when we look at who is Joseph, as we've been saying all week. Joseph is the type of suffering Messiah. So Joseph is saying here, make me a sacrifice, which is, of course, what and who Yeshua is. Because it says here, listen, there is a good chance that God will also choose me for the same purpose, because I too am my father's favorite son. If I commit adultery, I will be unfit as an offering to God. So this is what Joseph is telling Potiphar's wife. Look, the reason I can't sleep with you, commit adultery with you, is because I believe that God is going to make me into a human sacrifice like he did Isaac, because I am the favorite son. And Joseph, listen, this goes back to a rabbinic idea that Abraham and Isaac knew that Isaac's offering was going to reverse the curse of Adam, but it didn't happen. The sacrifice didn't happen. So Abraham and Isaac knew that sacrifice is eventually going to occur at some point in the future. I've got this all documented. I've talked about it and taught on it before. So now you have Joseph, who's the favorite son, who has been given the code of Adam. And Joseph is saying, basically, I'm probably going to be the one. Makes perfect sense. My brothers hate me. I'm now, a slave. I'm probably going to be the one. I'm going to be the one that's going to reverse the curse. So it says, my God often reveals himself to people both by day and by night. He revealed himself to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. But if he reveals himself to me and finds me defiled, Adam was given only one commandment, not to eat from a certain tree. When he violated this commandment, he was banished from the Garden of Eden and brought death upon the world. What you're asking me to do is even worse sin. So now he's kind of relating himself back to Adam. You see, do I have to point out the correlations here? He says, and he goes on to say, besides, I'm greatly afraid of my father, who is very strict regarding these matters. My brother Reuben committed a minor infraction. He moved my father's bed from Bilhah's tent to his mother's tent. His punishment was that the birthright was taken from him and given to me. How can I now have the audacity to do what you're requesting? Although my father is far away in the land of Canaan, he is a prophet, and nothing can be hidden from him. There's other insight that goes on to say that he brought up to her the point of the fact that he's circumcised, and the circumcision is a sign of the covenant, which prevents him from entering into this type of relationship. So you see, I mean, it's really phenomenal, isn't it? He's saying, look, I could be a human sacrifice, hashtag Yeshua. I'm like Adam. I can't afford to make the same mistake Adam made, hashtag Yeshua. I'm like the firstborn son of my father. I have a responsibility. I have to strictly follow the laws of Moses. I cannot follow this temptation, hashtag Yeshua. What ends up happening is, of course, he's, caught alone with her, and so she tries very much to basically seduce him, and he flees from her. He does the right thing, but while he's fleeing, the story tells us that she grabbed his cloak and then accused him of rape. By the way, it just came back to me, the second thing I was going to tell you earlier. I'm sorry, random thought here. The other thing I was going to mention was about the Noahide thing, is that a lot of people have taught about the law can't save you. I just happened to be on a messianic page of a very prominent messianic rabbi. So I don't really know much about, but anyway, he popped up on my screen and I was just curious. So I went on his page. Seemed like a nice guy. He's very, very popular, extremely popular. I've never really heard of him, but that doesn't mean anything. Totally messianic, totally Christian, totally Paulinian, 100%, which probably explains his huge following. But one thing that he made mention on there is that, as you see so often, he said, we do not believe that salvation is tied in any way to the laws of Moses. He allegedly believes in the laws of Moses, which I doubt very seriously he really follows them, but he does believe that they're legitimate, whatever. But they're not. They have no salvation in them whatsoever. And ladies and gentlemen, that's actually very much false. It's rooted, of course, in Paul's teaching, but of course we know Paul's teaching is false. But is it true that the laws of Moses hold no salvation? The answer is no, that's not true. One way that we know that, remarkably, is because Yeshua said so explicitly when asked. He explicitly said, when asked about eternal life, he said, follow the law. It's exactly what Yeshua said. I intend to do a teaching on that, probably a part of the You've Heard It Said series, because it really is important. And of course, it's shocking. No one who believes in the Messiah will ever tell you that the law can save you, but I will. Because why? Like I said earlier, it's true. And to me, I'm guided by truth. I'm not guided by Paul, which is not truth. And nor am I guided by, trying to not be offensive. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. But anyway, that was the other thing that was in my mind that I forgot about earlier. So we got to wrap this up, but we're going to wrap it up with a great insight here. Joseph is Joseph's falsely accused, and so he ends up being cast in prison. And this goes back to our earlier discussions of have any of you ever been there? Have any of you ever done the right thing and then been cast into a hellish situation? I think most of us who are over the age of 20 have probably had this experience in life. So he puts him in prison. So here's the highlighted quote. It says the term Beit HaZohar, because it says Vayitnehu El Beit HaSohar, place him in the prison. So in other words, the word HaSohar here, the prison, is similar to Zohar, radiance. So it says, accordingly, the usual use of this term brings out that although he was cast into a dungeon where he felt shame and despair, Joseph's stay in prison was nevertheless bathed in light from above because of his unwavering faith and his absolute confidence in God. For Joseph, Sohar and Zohar, prison and light, merge into one and the same idea. So this teaches us that even though we can be in a hell, seemingly, it can be actually a holy hell because we're supposed to be there. It has some type of cosmic reason. Note that the text reiterates at the end of the verse that he remained there in prison, which was a Beit HaSohar, a house of light. For the Torah continues, Hashem was with Joseph. For the innocent who suffer imprisonment, the dungeon itself can become a haven of light, provided that confidence in God illuminates their soul. So in this case, Joseph was falsely accused, yet wherever he went, there the light of God was. Why? Because he was innocent and he kept his confidence in God. And then we see Hashem was with Joseph. Joseph's ordeal in prisons are a prefiguration of the ordeals Jewry will endure in exile. These exiles are comparable to Joseph's stay in the house of detention, which the Torah also calls the pit. Now, what's interesting here is the word pit is bor, and the word bor in Hebrew is cistern, and a cistern, is essentially what a mikveh is. Our mikveh that we built, which is a totally kosher mikveh, is a bor al gabor mikveh style, which means it's a cistern on top of a cistern. In other words, when we go into trials and tribulations, we enter into the mikveh. So in other words, these trials and tribulations that we go into, ladies and gentlemen, have the effect of bringing death to our carnal nature and elevating our spiritual nature. That's why God allows us or orchestrates us to go through them. Okay. We don't like it, but I think every one of us would testify, everybody would, that, yeah, I went through this hellacious experience, for this reason or that reason, but I can say that coming out on the other side of it, I was elevated. Now, we go through these trials, and the question becomes, what is our response? And we'll conclude our time together with this insight. What counts most of all is the personal reaction in the face of destiny. If man emerges ennobled morally and spiritually from his sufferings, purified in his soul, sanctified in his life, and stronger in his faith in God, these ordeals will have fulfilled their purpose, whatever may have been their cause. And this moral victory will thus have transformed the punishment into a chastening of love. As for Joseph, the years which he spent as a slave in Potiphar's house gave him the opportunity to raise himself to the utmost degree of his spiritual strength. End of our Aliyah today. Hag Hanukkah Sameach. Happy Hanukkah to all of you. Thank you so much for being with me. Tonight will be the second lighting of the Hanukkah, which will occur before you light the Sabbath candles. We will look forward to seeing you tomorrow in the synagogue, which will be day 2 of Hanukkah, as well as Shabbat. So it'll be an exciting time. Please join us in tomorrow at Shul. I will be talking about everything about Hanukkah, all the insights to Hanukkah, the meaning of Hanukkah, the deep insights to it, why we celebrate it, what we're celebrating, and the implications it has for all of us at this time. It's going to be hopefully very exciting and interesting. Look forward to seeing you then. Until then, having a great and amazing Hanukkah and a great and amazing Shabbat. So Shabbat Shalom and Hanukkah Sameach.